Donald Trump would rather shut down the government.
On this vote, the yeas are 44, the nays are 48. The 60 vote threshold having not been achieved, the bill is not passed.
Mr. President,
and we're going to be going in quiet. You're really obnoxious.
I'm not obnoxious, but I'm trying to ask.
In today's episode, the Senate failed to pass a continuing resolution that would prevent a government shutdown. Also, the president got heated with the media in the Oval Office as it pertains to free speech, and the president announced a major update regarding Letitia James. In all these stories, we're going to show you what both sides are saying and then give you the bottom line.
Yeah, I don't want to overstate it, Connell, but it's more likely than not that we have a government shutdown based on what we're seeing right now. Neither Republicans nor Democrats are blinking. They're in a standoff now. Neither side is bending. The House, as you mentioned, passed its version of a temporary government funding bill that would just basically fund the government through November. Because remember, at the end of this month, on the 30th, that's when government funding runs out. So that is the date that we're eyeing.
All right, so you heard it for yourself. They believe a government shutdown is more likely to happen than not. Obviously, we wouldn't be surprised given the recent behavior from the Democrat Party. They refuse to compromise as it pertains to the Trump administration and whatever he is looking to accomplish. So I think we all should expect a government shutdown to occur. Now, I don't think anything is going to be difficult being passed in the House. The real trick is getting things passed in the Senate because it requires 60 votes. And that is what happened today, where the House passed their bill. They sent it to the Senate. The Senate failed. Okay, it didn't work. Now, here's what Speaker Johnson had to say in his explanation of what's in the bill and why it failed. Take a look.
Speaking of more Speaker Johnson magic, at least you got a short-term continuing resolution so the government doesn't shut down. You can tell us about that. It's not getting through the Senate so fast. They don't have as much magic as you do. But what happened exactly?
Well, listen, here's the thing, Larry. We've been working very hard. You and I have talked a lot about how we got to get Congress back to the way the budgeting and appropriations process is supposed to work. As we remember, the way it's supposed to work is 12 separate appropriations bills passed by Congress through regular order with debate and discussion and arm wrestling over what the appropriate amounts of spending are. I'm proud to tell you we've gotten that muscle memory back in the House. The House Appropriations Committee, working in bipartisan fashion. And guess what Chuck Schumer did, Larry? He came out with a highly partisan wish list of items, a crazy list of things. He wanted to increase spending by over $1.4 trillion of new spending to attach onto this thing. He wanted to reinstitute paying illegal aliens free health care by taxpayer funding. He wanted to add $500 million to prop up left-wing media organizations again. We're just not doing that, and he knows it. So Chuck Schumer is trying to force the government into a shutdown, and he's going to pay the price for that.
Well, the interesting thing about all this is what does Chuck Schumer have to lose at this point? I mean, his approval rating is at an all-time low. He's not going anywhere. Not right now, not until 2028. So, you know, he could take this risk in a sense. But what is it going to do to Republicans? What will it do to President Trump? Well, speaking of the president, here's what he had to say about a potential government shutdown. Take a look.
As you know, we passed the continuing resolution in the Republican House today. It was an amazing vote, actually. It showed we want to keep things going and going properly. It was good for a lot of reasons. The Republicans want to keep government open. But in the Senate, we have 53 Republicans total, and we need 60 votes. That means we need Democrat votes. I want to thank Senator John Fetterman. He wants to keep the country open. We're doing so well as a country. We're doing probably better than ever before. If you look at the stock market and other indicators, we have tremendous investment coming in, record investment coming in. Everything's going well, but the Democrats are unhappy about that because they don't want it to go well. I think they actually dislike our country greatly.
Now, when we researched this story using Ground News, because in case you guys haven't been following me, Ground News is the tool that we use the most to see exactly what both sides are saying and how the media is talking about these stories. And it helps us critically think and do our own research. And if you guys want to follow along, just go to ground.news/Devore. Anyways, when you research this and look at the articles that they were able to gather, Pay attention to this headline because this is the propaganda and misleading your audience stuff that I really don't like about mainstream media. Shutdown risk grows as rebel Republicans block spending bill in Senate. It wasn't the Republicans because at the end of the day, you need 60 votes. It's not why the bill failed. It's because Chuck Schumer tried to push through more funding for illegal aliens, etc. And because that's not in there, they don't want to play ball. But they're not going to tell you that because it doesn't fit their narrative, which is why the president said this.
I think you could very well end up with a closed country for a period of time, and we'll take care of the military, we'll take care of Social Security, we'll take care of the things that we have to take care of. A lot of the things that Democrats fight for, which in many cases aren't very good things, will not be able to be paid. So we'll watch and see how they do with that. They'll have to handle their constituents pretty carefully.
Now, why don't we look at when the article leans right? Because I showed you when the article leans left, they blame Republicans. Well, this article that leans right blames Democrats. Senate Democrats block House pass stopgap measure as shutdown looms. The fact of the matter, ladies and gentlemen, the government's probably going to shut down because these people can't get their act together. Now, the president made it very clear. They're going to fund the military. They're going to fund essential services, and pay attention to that because you heard what the president said. But I guarantee you mainstream media is going to leave that detail out, and they're going to say, yeah, the president doesn't care about the military. I mean, that's how slick they are at times. And if you're not listening or doing your research or using a tool like Ground News to help you do so, it's easy to get caught up in the propaganda. So if you want to use this tool for yourself, all you have to do is go to ground.news/Devori, or you could download the mobile app. Just use promo code Devori, and it's going to give you access to everything that I showed you in this video, including 40% off the Vantage plan.
Donald Trump would rather shut down the government than even talk to Democrats about lowering the cost of health care for Americans, which is what is our goal. And Republicans, unfortunately, sadly, dutifully obeyed. Senate Republicans just voted to shut the government down with a partisan bill that gives Donald Trump everything he wants and nothing the American people need. Donald Trump says he doesn't want to talk. He's still in the go-to-hell mode. His marching orders are to Republicans are don't even bother with Democrats. That is not governing. That's a recipe for a shutdown. And the American people know it. Well, neither bill was able to pass. The theater must end. Let's sit down and negotiate. Now that it's clear that neither bill will get the 60 votes that the Senate needs, it's time to negotiate. The theater must end.
You see Chuck Schumer is panicking. That's why he's calling for people to negotiate finally. But what was the negotiation regarding the funding for illegal aliens and Medicaid? Because we know that is a thing, and they continue to lie about it, but there was no negotiations there. Where was the negotiation to ensure that the border was closed? It took the president to do that. So, you know, at the end of the day, we know who Congress is. It is a uniparty. You know, there are always going to be situations where they have no problem pushing a bill through like that. But when it comes to funding and spending and their little pet projects, they can never see eye to eye. So we should expect a government shutdown to occur. Now, let's go to our next story. And this is also, I guess you're going to have to tell me how you feel about it. But this is the president speaking about Letitia James, because as you know, she committed mortgage fraud, or allegedly. And now there's this rumor going around that the president might fire the U.S. attorney who's in charge of prosecuting her. He was appointed by Democrats, and he hasn't been able to make a case yet. Here's what the president said.
On Letitia James, are you disappointed that the U.S. attorney for the Eastern District of Virginia has not prosecuted Letitia James? Do you intend to fire him?
Well, we're going to see what happens. I am not following it very closely. It looks to me like she's very guilty of something, but I really don't know. I know that the U.S. attorney from the Eastern District, or from that district in Virginia, that he was approved by two Democrat senators who, in my opinion, are among the worst. And when I learned that two senators, Democrats, because as you know, it's very hard with the blue slip, it's very hard for a Republican to get somebody approved if you have one senator that's a Democrat, because of an old custom It's not a law, it's a custom. It's a ridiculous custom. But if you have a Democrat senator, you have to get that senator to approve. Well, in this case, we had two. When I saw that he got two senators, two gentlemen that are bad news as far as I'm concerned, when I saw that he got approved by those two men, I said, pull it, because he can't be any good.
So you want him fired? You want him out?
Yeah, I want him out, yeah.
Yeah, so I believe the president's talking about Eric Serber because he's the one who has declined to charge Letitia James despite a 5-month investigation finding evidence that she did commit mortgage fraud. And as you guys heard, he was appointed by 2 Democrat senators, and they might just fire him. Now, I guess the question is, how do you guys feel about that? Do you believe that the U.S. Attorney, Eric Serber, who's responsible for charging Letitia James and fails to do so and declines to do so, should be fired? Now, in the context of accountability, yeah, he should, because clearly he doesn't want to play ball. And she took him to court for less. So we'll see what happens with that. But more importantly, how does ABC react to this? Because according to them, there is no evidence that she committed mortgage fraud. Take a listen.
He's now using the power of the federal government, making a new move against the New York Attorney General who prosecuted him, Letitia James.
George, this is a major escalation of the president's effort to get retribution against his political rivals. ABC News has learned that President Trump is expected to fire a top federal prosecutor for failing to file criminal charges against Letitia James, somebody who is obviously very high on the president's enemies list. The prosecutor is Eric Siebert. He is the U.S. Attorney for the Eastern District of Virginia, arguably the most important U.S. Attorney's office in the country, responsible for the bulk of counterterrorism and espionage cases. And his office has been investigating James for 5 months on allegations of mortgage fraud that have been brought by the administration. He found no evidence to go forward with the prosecution, declined to do so, and now we are told that he will be fired. ABC News has learned that the president intends to put somebody else in the U.S. Attorney's office who will more aggressively prosecute the New York Attorney General.
It says it right there. I hereby declare that I intend to occupy this property as my principal residence. And then when she goes to sign the document, it states that, hey, I am signing that all statements on this contract are true. And if found to be false, I could be held liable. They all say the same thing. Now, there's plenty of Americans that probably have been committing mortgage fraud because they don't think it's really a big deal. And that might be true. Maybe it's not that big of a deal. Just like what happened with President Trump wasn't a big deal, but when you twist yourself in a pretzel and you change the rules like the judge did, you can get a conviction against the president. And that's what they did with him. And by the way, whatever crime they said he committed is probably the same, if not less, than mortgage fraud. So it's just fascinating. And yes, they're probably going to find someone else to get the job done. It's nothing new. For the people who say the president, this is retribution, it probably is. Because you know what? He's not the only president to do it. They all do it. The difference about President Trump is he will do it publicly. They do it in the shadows. That's the difference. Now, of course, instead of taking responsibility for how far they went with the president, all they do today is cry about it. Take a listen.
We are already across that Rubicon.
Mark, I really appreciate that reset, especially because in the case of Letitia James, I mean, this seemed to come down to what amounted to a clerical error. There were contemporaneous paperwork showing that it was, in fact, an error, contemporaneous documents showing that it was an error. And to your point, they could have dismiss this from the get-go. The fact that it came this far, Rev, reminds us that this moment is not normal. This Department of Justice is not normal. This administration is not normal.
No, the fact that it went into a criminal investigation when there was no prima facie evidence of a crime is what's disturbing.
Democrats up and down said that the president committed plenty of crimes with his businesses, etc. They backed the Letitia James hoax against the president. Including Alvin Bragg and Fonnie Willis. We can go on and on. They had no problems with that. But when it happens to them, now they understand how it feels. And the interesting thing is, Letitia James did commit crimes on black and white paper. There's no question about it. Now, will she go to prison over it? Obviously not. Nobody will. Okay. But to say that there's no evidence, there is evidence. All right. So let's go to our next update. And this is the president. Once again, he's in the Oval Office. And, I would probably say things got a little heated because they're still trying to confront the president over free speech because they believe the president forced ABC News to pull Jimmy Kimmel off the networks. And we know that's not true. The local affiliates did that. And financially, it was already a loss. And it was just a great timing for ABC and Disney. And so here's the president reacting to that question. Take a listen.
Mr. President,
and we're going to be going in quiet. You're really obnoxious.
I'm not obnoxious, but I'm trying to ask you, what about your plans for
really
Memphis?
Obnoxious.
I'm not obnoxious, but I am asking, what are your plans for Memphis? Many people want
I'm not going to talk to you until I call on you.
What are your plans for Memphis?
Who else? Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to settle this free speech question because you've said that you restored free speech in America.
Yeah.
Is that free speech including for people who are harshly critical of you, for your political opponents, for people who say things you don't like?
I've become immune to it.
Unfairly?
I've become immune to it. There's never been a person that's had more unfair publicity than me, and that's why your network paid me $15 million, or $16 million, I believe, to be exact, George Slopadopoulos. And that's why CBS paid me a lot of money, too. And that's why I sued the New York Times 2 days ago for a lot of money. Because I'm winning. I mean, I'm winning the cases. And the reason I'm winning is because you're guilty, John. You're guilty. ABC is a terrible network, a very unfair network, and you should be ashamed of yourself. NBC is equally bad. I don't know who's worse. I think they're equally bad. And, for you to stand there and act so innocent and ask me a question like that. But look, you paid a big price because you were dishonest, John.
Okay, so there's really two issues here. Number one, she is not. Okay, so there's just two issues here. If I was in the military and I spoke to the commander that way, either my captain, my lieutenant colonel, or the full bird, whatever, I would definitely be in trouble. No question about it. And these reporters, they just think they could talk to the president any way that they want. The problem is he's from New York. You're not going to get away with it, okay? That's just the reality. They know better. They know who he is. So why do they think poking him in that way is going to get them the results that they want? Unless they're looking for clicks and to play the victim, okay? Maybe that's what her aim was. But John Carl in his free speech thing is this. John, you guys were pretty silent when it came to Biden's mental decline. Why is that? Oh, that's right. Because they silenced you guys. They threatened you guys. That's why nobody ever said anything. Not, oh, well, we didn't know. No, you guys knew. But you knew if you said something, you would be outlawed. Right? And so the interesting thing about the president is, yes, he's a human being. Of course he's going to hold a grudge. Of course he's going to get angry. That's everybody. But see, this is why I respect even when he's wrong. At least he does it publicly. He's not going to do it behind your back. That's what the Biden administration did. He silenced the entire media as it pertains to his mental cognitive decline. They didn't say anything until he was out the White House. Now, why was that?
You can't have a free airwaves. You're getting free airwaves from the United States government, and you can't have that and say, and somebody that just won an election, and I had to go through this during the election. I think it's a miracle that I can win when 97% of the stories on the networks are bad, or whatever it may be, whether it's 89, it doesn't matter. It's a tremendous number. You know it, you report it all the time, and it changes. But when you have that kind of a negative reporting, fake negative reporting, when they take a great story and they make it into a bad story constantly, that's what they do. Look, 60 Minutes took Kamala's answer and they threw it out and they gave her a different answer so that she sounded competent. When things like that happen, George Slopadopoulos from your network, right? George Slopadopoulos had to pay $16 million to me because of what he said. And that's ABC. You had to pay more than that. Your network had to pay more than that. So I think it's very sad. But I think that reporting has to be at least accurate to an extent.
What the president is really speaking to, and we'll see if Congress gets their act together, is bringing back the piece of legislation that would hold these mainstream media companies accountable for pushing propaganda that are clearly lies. And they should rename it the Charlie Kirk Act. There's been some rumors and energy around it. We'll see if Congress acts on it because they haven't yet. But that's really what he's talking about. Now, these media companies, they can literally say whatever they want because it's not really them saying it. See, they're very tricky about it. What they'll say is so-and-so said it. We're just saying what he said. We're just repeating his exact quote. So you really can't hold them accountable. It's only when they blatantly deliver an opinion that is clearly false and a lie. And they have been sued before for it, by the way. Yeah, so this actually leads me to the questions I would love for you to answer in the comment section below as it pertains to this overall video, starting with this. Do you believe the Trump administration has been going too far with these lawsuits and these fights with these networks where it has led to them settling millions of dollars with the president? Let me know what you guys think about that one. Secondly, this whole Letitia James situation, we know she committed mortgage fraud based on the paperwork that's been provided, okay? Allegedly. And the fact that the U.S. attorney doesn't want to prosecute her, he did decline to do so. Do you believe he should be fired and replaced with someone who will? And finally, you see that the government's more likely to shut down. Congress is going on vacation. Who do you blame if the government shuts down? Just give me all of your thoughts and the answers in the comments section below. In our next video, Democrats who claim to be peaceful and not the party of political violence. Well, in Chicago today, an ICE detention facility was attacked. Federal property was damaged as these protesters turned violent. So if you missed out on that story and more updates from earlier today, all you have to do is click on that video because it's coming up right now.